we are here today at Cannabis Expo in Montreal, Quebec. We're here for Business of Cannabis, brought to you by MNP. Really excited to have joining us today Chris Churchill-Smith from Canada House Wellness. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. And just to begin, would love to get a brief overview of what Canada House Wellness does.
Sure, thanks. And again, really appreciate this. Is the third time I think that I've had the opportunity to speak with Business of Cannabis, so thanks for having me back. So Canada House, a publicly traded company on the CSE with two operational subsidiaries, Canada House Clinics and Abimedix Wellness, Abimedix, which is our licensed producer in Pickering, Ontario. So again, the business, Canada House, started as Marijuana for Trauma, two military veterans focused on providing cannabinoid therapy services and prescription services to the military veterans. Back in 2013, Mike Southwell, Fabian Henry were the founders. The business transitioned from being just a clinic business to being a clinic business plus a licensed producer, and we're very excited that our licensed producer facility in Pickering, Ontario just received our final amendment for our sales license that allows us now to ship and sell products directly to consumers and medical patients around the country.
Wow, congratulations on that.
Thanks so much.
There's a lot of talk these days about building a brand in cannabis in Canada. Now, it's a highly regulated industry, so what's yours and Abimedix's approach to brand building in cannabis?
It's a very relevant question, and Health Canada hasn't made it easiest on licensed producers in Canada to develop a brand and kind of promote product. And I think they're doing it for a variety of reasons, responsibility towards the consumer base, children, the illicit market are all factors that play into that. We're taking an approach. We have one SKU to date, that's Abimedix branded product, and we're looking at ways in how we can kind of leverage brands that have been successfully developed in markets that can actually be marketed properly. So whether that's taking a brand out of California or a very strong CBD brand in Europe, having the halo effect to come into Canada and kind of leverage that. So we're taking it very carefully. To answer your question directly, it's a challenge for everybody in the Canadian industry, and we're taking a very methodical approach. We really want to start with the medical distribution through clinics, Canada House clinics and other clinics throughout Canada, direct to patients, and then as we kind of grow and stabilize our production and get into perpetual production where we have product consistently coming out of our facility, which is probably going to be within the next short while, we're going to take a more wholehearted approach to actually have more SKUs and of course prepare ourselves for the exciting cannabis 2.0 legalization, which I'm told and kind of everybody understands is really excited for the middle of October plus a 60-day period. So middle of December, I think people are going to have really strong brands and products to market then. So, to recap, Abimedix branded product, looking at leveraging other opportunities where brands are actually able to be marketed properly. And this is something the management team and senior executive at Canada House is taking very, very seriously and working on every day.
That's great. And on the medical market, what do you think it would take? What do you think it takes for a licensed producer in Canada to win that market? I know a lot of LPs have moved away from it towards the recreational market. I think it's great that you're still focused on that. Yeah. What do you think positions you well to tackle that market?
Yeah, so I think you have to look at it in two ways. So on the clinic side and then on the actual production side. So on the clinic side, and just to give a little bit of kind of a summary. So everybody thought that October 17th of last year would see a kind of a marked drop off in patient registrations amongst clinics. Canada House Clinics actually saw an increase. Around the 17th, we saw a flat, kind of no growth for a 30, 45-day period, and then a ramp up from there. So we're very proud. That tells us that the patients that come through Canada House Clinics are real medical patients that take care about their health and take it seriously. And so what we're trying to do on that side is really endear ourselves to the insurers and the eventual payers that are going to come into the market and reimburse cannabis on a more global scale than they already are today. And one of the things that I know they will be looking for is kind of caps and limits and due process in terms of actually providing prescriptions to people that need it and not recreational users hiding behind a prescription. So on the clinic side, that's where we're really focused. And kind of linked to that is on the cultivation side. So again, talking just about dried flower, we've had the benefit of collecting data from our patients. 14,000 patients have come through our clinics since 2013. So we've collected a bunch of data. We understand what strains patients are looking for what conditions, and that's part of the reason we decided to kind of phenotype 17, almost 18 strains, and then kind of decide from there which ones produce well. And which ones the patients actually need for the demographic that we're serving. Yeah. So that's kind of our approach on the kind of the clinic side and then on the cultivation side.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Now, it's funny you mentioned that this is your third time doing these. I actually watched some of the ones from a year ago. Actually, it was over a year ago. It was in June of 2018, so before legalization. And just seeing what we were talking about then is so different from what we're talking about today. And so I guess my question will be a bit more forward-looking.
Sure.
What are you most excited about, or what do you think we'll be talking about 5 years from now in Canadian cannabis? And what helps you wake up in the morning and get you fired up to go into work?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. I mean, Canada House, the cannabis industry in general, I think, has switched from, and the capital markets are kind of, acknowledging this. I mean, there's a buyer strike in the market right now because people just aren't producing the cash flow and the profitability that they've said they would. And I think that's kind of an endemic problem around the industry. Generally, it's harder to cultivate in a very regulated environment than people think, and the distribution takes time. And of course, brand limitations are always a challenge. So to get back to your question, I think what you're going to see now is a switch to not how many square feet of cultivation capacity you have, it's what's your free cash flow from operations that your company's producing. And I think you're going to see a very specific and decided retrenchment from being a fully integrated player to being a specialized player in a niche that you have. And I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to be very active, given our fabric, the fabric of Canada House being military and medical focus, and we really want to kind of continue to provide a premium clinical care service to our patients, military and non. And we want to produce very strong, high quality, consistent dried flower and have a meaningful participation in the concentrates in the edibles market. And I think, generally across the industry, you're going to see companies that, grow industrial scale, distribute, have brands, have distribution, are going to focus in on a couple of those things. And I think you're going to see kind of a commoditization as cannabis is an input for inputs into kind of derivative products. And you're going to see companies that focus on kind of very high quality craft cannabis, dried flower, which continues to be a very popular market. And 5 years out, on the medical side, don't discount big pharma. Kind of, they're circling the industry right now. I mean, that's no secret. And I know a lot of these big pharma companies have massive budgets that are earmarked to kind of enter into the space, which means IP's coming, which means biosynthesis of cannabinoids are coming, and kind of a reproach, not a reproach, but kind of a continued and decided path forward to specialization within a subset of product or a service that you're very, very good at.
Well, Chris, thanks so much for joining us again. Congratulations on the sales license. Best of luck in the future. And appreciate you coming by.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.